Be talking about the State of the Nation address that happened yesterday, where the President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, delivered the State of the Nation address to Parliament. And of course, he talked about quite a number of issues. That's the performance of our economy, things to do with value addition, the high commodity prices in the country, among other things. And of course, to discuss this, I've been joined by Mr. Hon.Kasule, who is a development economist. Good morning, Mr. Kasule.
Good morning, Henry.
And thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Yeah.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning, everyone watching Aban TV. My name is Hon.Kasule Onesimu, a senior economist, a researcher, a director of different companies, and a politician. I contested to be a member of parliament representing Uganda North in parliament.
Okay.
And I take this opportunity to greet my people, my constituency, that's my sub-county Bulera, Kalangalo, and Chikandwa. We come from Mityana.
Oh.
So thank you so much.
You're doing quite a lot with yourself. So, Mr. Kasule, the President yesterday addressed the nation.
Yes, please.
And I made quite a number of, commitments, also took us through some of the achievements that have been made by his government. What do you make, about his address?
The address is mandatory, that each year he has to do it. It is constitutional and it's a must. But as usual, we did not get what we wanted. Each and every Ugandan was waiting to hear solutions. So we have so many problems which we expected the President to address and give us way forward, the solution, what we are going to do, how are we going to overcome such challenges, because you cannot leave out the issue of prices, fuel, and some other issues. But when you look through the address, he did not touch anything like a solution. So he did not give us solution. He left us in suspense. So we cannot say that the address was good and fine. The address was there as a mandate, but we did not hear, we did not find anything like a solution. That's where our problem was.
And what are some of the things that you think the President should have touched and, provide practical solutions? So
all along, since COVID, we have been affected economically. The economy is constrained. People are challenged with household income. So right now we are facing prices are very high for basic needs. The price of soaps, the price of cooking oil, the price of sugar, the price of rice. Whatever you want to buy from the market, the prices are very high. And remember, we expected the President to come and say, you see, we are going to do this and that so that we can give some relief to Ugandans. One, prices, everyone is crying over prices. But we expected the President to say, we know why prices are high. We know that there are so many external shocks. We are affected by the war in Ukraine, Russia, and some sanctions as he talked about them. But we expected the President to think of reducing the prices. Higher prices are caused by higher taxes. We expected the President to talk about how he's going to reduce on price on taxes. We are not requesting him to cut off prices, but we expected him to talk about reducing taxes. We are not talking about removing taxes, because the budget depends on taxes. So we expected him to say we are reducing VAT by 1% or 2%. We are reducing fuel taxes by 10% or 5%. You remember the government is taxing 1,350 from each liter of fuel. So we expected President to say, you see, we are reducing some amount from that. We are not telling him to remove all taxes. That's how it was like, if we remove taxes, where are we going to get money to construct roads? Where are we going to get money to construct hospitals?
If we cut taxes, it will affect other areas of production.
Yes. We did not expect that. What we are talking about reducing, you reduce some percentage. And another thing, we expected him to talk about the government expenditure. If you look at our budget, 60% is expenditure. Government expenditure, we're talking about paying salaries, wages, and all government workers must be paid from our taxes. So if you look at the budget and out of 100, 60% are going into government expenditure. So we expected him to talk about the government expenditure. One, his State House is going to be using 1.8 billion per day daily. That's a lot of money. So before this financial year we are concluding, he was using 550 million daily. Now he's asking for 1.8 billion. Now we think, if you, the President of the Republic of Uganda, and the State House, your home is asking to increase the budget for the State House, what about the Ugandans? If you're asking that, let the people of Uganda increase my money, what about the people? Think about the people. So we should have talked about the government expenditure and how to reduce on it. One, we have so many government agencies. We have over 39 and above. I'm going to give you an example. We have Uganda National Uganda National Water. We have National Forest Authority. We have Uganda Meteorological Authority. All of those agencies are working on environment. So why don't we merge them? We take it back to the Ministry of Environment, Water, and whatever. You get the point. So all of those agencies, they have their independent budget, of which it would be better if we merge them, we take them back to their mother ministries, then we reduce on the budget. We have so many other DCs. We have 143 other DCs. We have their deputies, they are 164. That is unnecessary expenditure. We are talking about kukekereza, but we should also check ourselves as a government. Are we kukekereza? So if you are telling people to kukekereza, first check your expenditure. So if you say we have member of parliament 529, that is a big expenditure. Why do we have a bigger parliament? Remember that parliament was designed to accommodate 87 members of parliaments. We are seeing them, they are exceeding the numbers, they cannot even fit in that building. They are constructing another building for the parliament. So we should think about reducing the government expenditure. Remember, the government expenditure is financed by the taxes. Whenever the government expenditure increases, you have to go back to taxes, of which the common person down is the one suffering. So what I'm talking about, if we can check the government expenditure, the taxes automatically reduces. Because if you don't have the RDCs, you don't need to add 200 on a bar of a soap to pay RDCs. If we reduce on the number of ministers, we have like 82 ministers, we need like 12 ministers. You find a ministry has like 4 ministers. For what? The expenditure is too big. It has reached to the extent that you are going to cut 60% from your budget to pay salaries. It is only 20% that goes into development. The roads the president was talking about, we only have 20% from our total budget. So if you have 60% into salaries, into government expenditures, into corruption, you know that Uganda almost loses half a budget into corruption. If we can only check the corruption scandals, we can find ourselves recovering from all of these challenges. But what I wanted to tell the president, don't tell Ugandans that you don't have solutions. Solutions are there, unless you don't have the country at heart. You get my point. So the solutions are there. For example, in Kenya, during the Labor Day celebration, the president said, no, you see, let us increase the minimum wage by 12%. Here, the wages remained the same, but the market prices changed. So you remember the teacher...
One would say our economies are different. One would say our economies are different.
No,
Kenya's economy.
It might be different, but the strategies are most likely to be the same. The policies are most likely to be the same. The only difference is the way we implement them. If you say the salary for teachers has remained constant, but the prices in the market have gone high, so I have to look into that. So the solutions are there. Only that the president did not go into much making research and find out how can we go about this. Kenya also subsidized the fuel pump price. Tanzania did the same. What about us? think about Ugandans. You normally tell people that Uganda has ever lived on a budget which is below 48 trillion. Because this financial year, our budget will be 48 point something trillion. So, but we have ever survived on 15 trillion and below. So why do you think that we must give every day, every time that URA increases the target? So I think this target is for financial year for 2022, 2023 is 25 trillion. So you are increasing the target for URA to collect much more taxes, but you don't think about the people who are making that taxes. The burden is too heavy, the burden is too high, and it is caused by the expenditure, unnecessary expenditure. When we talk about government expenditure, we have to prioritize. We need priorities. Which one should come first? Which one should come second? Which one should come third? So if it comes to roads construction, it is okay. Hospitals, it's okay. Schools, it's okay. Water, it's okay. But think about the money you are paying to RDCs. They don't have any role they play in the economy. Think about the everyday the constituencies you are creating. So it is NRM strategy. If they see that now in this constituency we don't have support, it is dominated by NUP, it is dominated by opposition, let us create another constituency. So for him, he's thinking about having the majority member of parliament that are NRM without thinking how much are you going to spend on each MP. You saw in Kololo, they were showcasing the new Mercedes-Benz for speaker, deputy speaker. They are about spending money on things that are not helping Uganda. The parliament has increased its allowance. You get my point. So we should think about what should we prioritize first? Okay,
Mr. Kasule, going back to the issue of the high commodity prices,
yes,
what's the impact of these to the, of course, ordinary Ugandans, and of course, the producers of these products?
You know, I normally tell Ugandans and people who are watching us, let me tell them that we, the economists, we think taxes must be economical. Taxes must match the performance of the economy. When you increase taxes, automatically prices increases. And by the way, the factor behind the increasing prices is increasing taxes. When you increase taxes, automatically you are increasing the prices of commodities. When the prices of the commodities go high, the demand goes down. So it means that when the demand is low, the production also goes down. That means a factory that has been producing 2 bars of soap every day, it is going to produce 1. That means the revenue is reducing, the performance of our industries is reducing, everything is constrained. So when we are bringing in new taxes and whatever, we must think about that economical principle. Is it economic? Is it much? Because if you go to Owino and you tax a vendor or anyone taking on a business activity, you must make sure that the next day when you want another tax, you will find that person there. You will come back when even that person has increased in the performance. His business is booming. His business is growing. And remember, when business grow, you expect more taxes, you expect more revenue. If I had one shop, if I had one shop and then you come back and you find I've opened another branch, that is another revenue. So we must think about bringing in taxes, but expecting that those taxes are not going to affect the business. Yes. Okay.
And of course, we also talk about the issue. The president yesterday talked about the issue of Uganda attaining or attaining the middle income status. And according to the president, we have hit about 1,046 compared to 1,036 required to be considered middle income status. What do you make of this?
Yeah, talking about middle income, first of all, our target was 2020. We were supposed to be the middle income status before 2020. We did not achieve it. And even the president talked about it, but to me it is a lie. It is not true. Middle income status, to those who don't know what is the middle income and what is entailed in it, that is when each Ugandan can earn 3.7 million annually. Yes. But when you come to practical thing, when you go down to people, to a common person, that is not there. It is not attained. And I can say, and I think it is not true. We did not achieve that. And we need a very, very big effort to have that thing achieved. One, the president based his argument or whatever, reasoning about middle income status on GDP per capita. For him, he thought GDP per capita automatically indicates that we have achieved it. But remember, GDP per capita, they get it, our total GDP as a country divided by the number of people. So you will find that there are some people who have the income for almost 1 million Ugandan. That income is earned by one person, but that is the income they divide. For example, if they say we have achieved the middle income status, they think even Sudil was calculated with 3.7. Even Mr. Murwan, Mr. Wavamuno is 3.7. They just divide. But you have to go on ground. You make much research. You find out whether there is that impact that people are earning 3.7 annually, which is not true. If you go to World Bank statistics, you will find that 19% of Ugandans are living below the poverty level. They are the poorest. They cannot afford the 3 meals a day. They cannot spend $1.9 a day. So you cannot have that percentage of 19% and you talk of middle income status. By the time you attain middle income status, you must have that the number of people below poverty line reduced. So if you say we are above 19%, someone was telling me that they are 29, but I will go with the World Bank statistics. We are 19% who are below poverty line. People who cannot afford 3 meals a day. So there is no way you can have that statistic and then you come out and say we have attained middle income status. So that is a lie. We need to go on ground, we find out the challenges, we help people, we help farmers, so that we can attain that. If you check Uganda, no one is earning that amount annually. So to me, middle income status is not yet achieved. Only if you are earning that money? Only very few. So you will find that the GDP of our total GDP is contributed by 1% of Ugandans. Those who are earning above 1 million, the investors and what. So if you put, like, if you want to say on average, that's a lie. Yeah. What does it mean for a country like Uganda to attain middle income status? I think countries like Kenya and Tanzania and East Africa have already achieved lower middle income status. Yes. First of all, for Tanzania, it's achieved that it achieved its middle income status during COVID. We are declared the middle income country during COVID. One thing to look at when you want to attain the middle income status is household income. How can you increase household income? The middle income we are talking about household income. As a house, how much do you earn annually? So we must look into private sector. We check out where our comparative advantage is, where we can leverage. For example, now, if you are to achieve the middle income status, first look at the agricultural sector. Because you know 80% of Ugandans are employed in that sector. So you have to check out that sector. One, you increase the budget for agriculture. You'll find that the sector is one of the sectors that gets little from the budget. Go and help farmers. I've been, when I was contesting to become a member of parliament, in my manifesto I had I highlighted having and creating the farmers bank. Whatever you hear, like Operation Wealth Creation, in NADS, now we are going to parish model, all those programs are good. and it would yield some benefits, but implementation is the problem. You will find that all of the money we invest in such programs will be stolen. Even the money we passed is not enough. You cannot give 17 million per parish. That money is not enough. It may have some impact, but not that impact we want if we are to achieve the middle income status. So we need to go back and create or come out with a farmer's bank. That let a farmer from my village come to the bank with a proposal, with a well-drafted plan that I'm going to do poultry, I'm going to do piggery, I'm going to do farming, I'm going to do coffee farming. So he takes $1 million, takes $2 million at a very lowest interest rate. At a very lowest interest rate. But if we think of parish model, we think of NADS, we think of Operation Welfare Creation, we think of Youth Livelihood Program. We have all had those programs, but they have failed to yield what we wanted. So we must think of alternative. We must think of a bank. All countries have these banks. Banks for business people, banks for farmers, banks for whatever. So if we go that way, I think we can achieve the middle income status. Another thing, we must invest in ICT. The world is moving too fast. The money someone earns from an app, just an application, the money that someone earns from Safe Border app, the money that someone is earning from Uber app, and other software things. That's where we should put much emphasis. ICT, we must train our people to have ICT knowledge. We must invest in technology, we must invest in technology, we must invest in technology. So the world is evolving into technology. So we must also think about technology. Another thing, we must fight corruption. Corruption has eaten our country. To the extent, I was reading the Auditor General's report, that every year we pay 70 billion to ghost workers. If they are not in existence, you get the point. But we spend 70 billion every year. That is corruption. Can you imagine that money is paid to bank accounts, that money is paid, and you can find out the details of those people receiving that money, but they are not there. Those are the ghost workers. We are losing so many good things through corruption. If you can check the corruption scandals in this country, you will cry. So we need to check that. We need to support the farming. We need to invest in ICT. We need to check the corruption. We need to check the government expenditure. I think with that checked out, we can attain the middle income status.
Yeah, still about the middle income status. Why should it matter for a country like Uganda to attain this status? Any benefits that are attached to it?
A middle income status is an indicator that the country is growing. We must grow. We must grow. We must fight poverty. So now we are considered a lower income country or a low developing country. We are not even developing country, we are a low developed country. So we need to leave that status. It's a bad status. It means people like Kasule who are existing in Uganda who study economics, they studied for nothing. Their books, their knowledge is not benefiting us. We need to compete. We need to see what the Kenya are doing, what Tanzania is doing. These people are far from us. We need to compete. The life is about competing. You must see what the Kenya is doing. You come here in Uganda, you see what can we change. We must be better than Kenya. We must do better than Tanzania. We must do better. That's why there is also some allowance for some mayors, ministers to go. You go to Dubai and you see how you benchmark. You get the point. You do pilot study. You see what can we do to live this level? What can we do to attain a middle income status? No one likes living with the poor people. Poor people are bad. Poor people cannot take their children to school. Poor people cannot eat well. Poor people cannot see a doctor. You find a Ugandan is like, he has lived for 25 years, but he has never gone for blood check to see the blood pressure, the what. So if you cannot check that problem, you may find that the old generation is gone. So we must attain middle income status. When you talk about the middle income status, that's the status where someone will take his or her child to a good school, where will be able to look after the children, the health care, basic needs are achieved. So now Ugandans are crying, not because the prices are high, but they don't have money. You get. If you have money, you cannot feel the pinch of price increase. That's why the leaders in these governments are not finding it too hard for them to get
even
what
if
to eat.
above shop it's 10,000, you don't even feel it.
You don't feel it. So do you think the Speaker of the Parliament can feel the pinch of the prices? No. Because he's given the allowance, he has the money, he has everything. Rich people don't feel like they don't feel the same way the poor one is doing. So middle income is transiting from poverty to somehow. You have some money. If the year can end and you see 3.7 on your account, that is too big. So, but you find that even the year can end and someone is in Mabanja.
Sure. Mr. Kasule, as we wind up, let's talk about your economist. And government has come out to say that our economy is like to grow up to 6% in the next financial year. Currently, I think we are at 3.8%. Do you see this happen?
Yeah, it can, because we have ever attained that growth. Uganda has ever grown at that rate. But we were challenged by COVID-19. And we are pushed back. So we are recovering. Only that by the time we are trying to recover, then the external shocks comes in. You find that there is a war in Ukraine, there is sanctions everywhere, fuel are scarce and whatever. But I think we can. We can, but we must put in much effort. People responsible must play their part. Leaders. So the problem with Uganda is leaders. Those people have not played their role. Our major problem is governance issues. We have resources. You cannot say that we don't have resources. We have resources and they are available. If you want to know that they are available, then we can even go to Congo and construct roads there. So that means we have resources. We have resources, but we need people who are responsible for mobilizing resources, managing them, implementing, evaluating, must be responsible for achieving that rate. We must task Minister of Finance, we must task all leaders at all levels that we must fight together, we must love our country, we must push for this. It is possible. We have land, why don't we have agricultural outputs? We have good soil, we have good environment. Here, even if you don't have irrigation materials, you can grow maize and it grows. So what I'm talking about, we have resources, we must mobilize, we must organize, we must make sure that we achieve that rate. It is possible, we can achieve it.
Okay, and as a country, are we getting priorities right?
No, that's a very, very big challenge. Our priorities are far different from the priorities we must be looking for.
What should we be looking for?
You cannot tell me that in our budget 60% is going into government expenditure. We are not talking about government development, we are talking about government expenditure. So if you look at our budget, 60% is going into government expenditure, 20% is going to pay our debt, 20% is going into development. So if you are an economist and you look at that budget, you cannot say that we are prioritizing. We are just going beyond priorities, that we are sticking to things which do not matter and doing things which do what? Do matter. So I think if we check ourselves and first rank our things into priorities, our planning into priorities, we have GDP, we have national plan, national development plan 3. So you can check out the priorities. They have good things, but the government do not care about them.
Good. Yeah. Very beautiful thoughts from Mr. Kasule Onesimu. He's a development economist. Of course, we were making sense of the State of the Nation address that was delivered yesterday. And I'm quite sure you picked a thing or two from what Mr. Kasule has shared with us. That's all we had time for. Big Issue returns tomorrow. My name is Henry. Good morning.
Hello viewers, how are you? My name is Dr. Rwasa Joel. I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist at Kawempe National Referral Hospital. So, a pregnancy is said to be lost if it does not continue. In Uganda, we take up to 28 weeks to say that baby is viable and, for that matter, can survive on its own outside the baby. So if you lose the pregnancy, or the pregnancy cannot continue beyond to reach 28 weeks, then we call it a pregnancy loss. The baby can survive after 7 months. So before 7 months, of course, with increasing technology, we may move even to maybe 6.5, because the technology is improving and things like that. But for now, let's say 7 months. So I've seen babies who are surviving as early as 6 months here in Uganda, but in really sophisticated care. Of course, there are a lot of need and the cost, but I've seen them survive. So when we talk about pregnancy loss can happen to any woman who gets pregnant. So the commonest known causes of pregnancy loss are infections. Infections can be malaria, can be urinary tract infections, can be something called streptococcus, strep B, colonization, can be syphilis, can be some viral infections. Now, apart from that, you can have babies who are formed abnormally, especially in the DNA. If the baby's DNA or chromosomes are not normal, many times, they will end up in a pregnancy loss or miscarriage. That's why when we look at our communities, we don't see so many abnormal babies, because they are either miscarried or they die earlier before birth. After that, you look at the woman's structure. Sometimes there are issues with the woman's womb. If the womb has things like scars, maybe the womb was not formed well when the woman is developing, when the woman has fibroids, such structures can impact on the success of a pregnancy, either to end up with a miscarriage or continue to term. So some women actually have a weak cervix that we may have to put a stitch to reinforce it so that the pregnancy continues. So if a woman loses a pregnancy the first time, we just encourage her. Of course, we manage what is around. Let's say if she's bleeding, you help her control the bleeding, control the pain, prevent infection. And we advise her to have a rest for at least 3 months. We know that if we increase, if women conceive earlier than 3 months after a miscarriage, the chances that they have another miscarriage are really high. So we advise them to take a little bit longer before they conceive again. So if a woman loses 2 pregnancies that are following each other, then we call that a recurrent pregnancy loss, and we advise them to come and seek medical help. So what we do, we actually try to find out what is possibly causing the pregnancy loss. For the causes that we can modify other than DNA, for example, if there are structural issues, like if she has fibroids, you remove the fibroids. If she has a weak cervix, you put a stitch at about 12 weeks, 13 weeks, 14 weeks. We put a stitch to make it strong. If it is like if the uterus didn't form very well, there are some complicated procedures that we can do to reshape the uterus. If she has scars, we can do something called hysteroscopy to cut out those scars. So some of those. Now, if there are infections like it was strep B, we give them antibiotics. If it was those viral infections, we sometimes we give them antivirals. Then there are some people who have they have abnormal clotting. They clot abnormally. So that's where aspirin comes in. Aspirin comes in. We give them aspirin to to dampen that clotting. Sometimes even a heparin to improve the success of the baby and the outcome of the pregnancy. So a few times women who have not conceived, we advise them to seek, we call it preconception care. They go and see a health worker, a doctor, a gynae obstetrician, or sometimes a nurse. Some tests can reveal things that are crucial in determining whether they will have a good outcome. Like for example, if we do a scan and you have a fibroid, and we can locate the fibroid, it can help us predict that if you get pregnant, the fibroid will end up, causing you issues. So we advise you to remove the fibroid before you conceive. Or if you find that a woman has, usually gets clots, or she has been treated for clots, or she's on certain medication. There are some medication actually that can cause pregnancy loss. So sometimes we can advise you to first stop the medication or modify the medication in consultation, of course, with your doctor who put you on that medication. You conceive, have your baby, and then revert back to the medication. So it is very important to have a preconception visit. For those who can, you see a doctor, and then you discuss on the risks that you have in either being pregnant, because pregnancy brings a risk to a mother, but also what risks do you have? Will you keep this baby? If you get pregnant, will the baby survive? Will the pregnancy continue? Or you should think otherwise.
This is Easter Mandy John. First, we have this project. It is called the rabbit keeping. We deal in rabbitry. Kati bwe watandika ne business eno si kinene kyoyetaagisa space ebeera ntonotono kubanga era mugiraba eri mu kafu katono naye ng'omyo buli wano era bungi busuka mu 1,000. So bw'oba yetaaza kutandika n'obumyu buno ekisooka just capital yeme otandika n'emitwalo 9 ziba sente ntono, then emitwalo 9 ba obumyu 3 naye nga mu mwaka gumu ekitono ennyo obeera n'obumyu 10 plus. So tewali kinene nnyo ekyetaagisa. First we have different breeds. Tulina obumyu bungi, tulina ebika bingi, tulina obuloko, tulina obucross, era tukuyigiriza ekika kyo ekyennyama okifunamu otya, ekika ekizaala abaana bangi oba obumyu bungi okifunamu otya. Oba oyagala kufuna sente mangu ekisooka tulina ekika kibayita exotic breed. Exotic breed eyo ekula mangu, egejja ate ekuwa ennyama ewerako. Bwe tubeera ku kya business ng'oguze exotic breed oba kye tuyita hybrid, mu myezi 3 eba ekuwa kilogramu 4 ku 5. Naye ate waba ogenze n'ekika kino ekyaloko kyo tikigejja kibeera ne size ntonotono. Naye ate bw'obeera ku size ya business ng'otunda mu kilos oba exotic breed oba hybrid eyanguwa kuwa sente okusinga ebika ebirala. Tuzimbamu ebiyumba byaffe. Bino ebiyumba bwobizimbye bwoti kubanga abasinga mu byalo balina bino balundira wansi bwo bwokka bwerabirira. Naye bwoba ozimbye bwoti ekiyumba kyo bwo bwokka babweyonja. Kye kisooka bwe tugenda ku ky'obuyonjo buba bweyonja lwaki olaba muno munda mulimu akatimba wansi kati bwe buli akasasiro yenna eyitamu n'egenda wano kati bw'ekyamaanyi oyisamu katonotono kasasiro eno gy'okola ki gy'olongoosa n'ojjako. Then ekirala kyokubiri obunyu buno okuzaala kwabwo kwe kusinga kutuwayo era ne ssente. Ekisooka akamyu kaba katandise kuzaala tikasiibayo ensonga bagamba akamyu kazaala buli mwezi katandikira ku myezi ena okuzaala bwekaba katandise ku myezi ena okuzaala buli mwezi kajja kuba nga kazaala olunaku lwe kazadde era lwe kaddamu ne kawaka. So kitegeeza buli mwezi oba oyingiza kubanga buli mwezi olina kuba nga ofulumya obumyu ate ng'oyingiza ki ssente. So kyetwogerako nti akamyu kazaala buli mwezi ate mu kyokulabirira koko kakeeyonja ng'olina ebiyumba bino bwe biti. Obumyu bulwala nnyo naye okulwala kiva ku ffe abantu. Tubuyinza kuvayo ne bulwala oba obufuddeko tubuyinza kulwala kubanga abasinga bagamba nti obuzungu bulwala kusinga Obuganda oba obuzungu bugumira embeera Obuganda bugumira embeera kusinga obuzungu naye nga si kyekyo. Singa kibeera bwekitera nente enzungu n'ebirala enkoko enzungu nazo zikola ki zirwala naye nga ku saidi y'obumyu bwo obyo eddagala erisooka ku bumyu nga bulwadde olina kuba nga oli muyonjo. Kasita buli emmere n'ogirongoosamu bulungi n'oteekamu emmere empya nga nyonjo oba obumaze. Tubeera n'abasawo ababujanjaba tulina bamembazi baffe olina kuba nga oregisterinze naffe ng'oyetaaze kufuna akatale abyenjawulo nga bwe nabagambye. Ekisooka tulina local breed gye tuyita Obuganda. Ekyokubiri tulina cross breed oba kye tuyita Mareto. Ekyokusatu tulina hybrid bwe buzungu. Kati era nga bwe mbabuulidde ebika nga bibiri bya njawulo era n'ebbeeyi ya njawulo. Bw'oba weetaaze local breed Obuganda tutundira kutandikira ku myezi 3 okudda waggulu. Kati ku myezi 3 myezi 4 myezi 5 era ebbeeyi y'emu owekeetaaze kubanga bonna babulirwedde okufuna eggwako oba okuzaala oba okuwakisa bonna. So buli kamu kali ku mitwalo 3. Then bwe tugenda ku cross breed era tutunda okutandikira ku myezi 3 okudda waggulu buli kamu kali ku mitwalo 6. Then bwe tugenda ku hybrid oba exotic breed tutandikira ku myezi 3. Emyezi 3 n'emyezi 4 buba ku mitwalo 10. Then oyagala buno buvubuka butanazaalangako naye nga butuusiza kuzaala buli kamu kali ku mitwalo 12. Then waliwo buno omuntu nga yabulabirira nga binene nnyo bwazaalako ddadda naye nga birabika bulungi binene. So ako buli kamu kabeera ku mitwalo 15. Then bwe tugenda ku saidi ya ng'oli mulunzi olina bumyu ogenda kukotandika otya ojja kukola otya kubufunamu. Ekisooka tulina counseling gye tubeera n'abalimi baffe. Tubeera ne counseling tubeera ne farm visits. Olina kubanga olina omusawo gwoweekutteko ng'akulambula kubanga nga bw'obimanyi obumyu buno waliwo osanga wazze ebirwadde nga bipya si bya bulijjo. So olina kubanga ofunye omusawo olwedde kubanga abasawo atendekera bafuna information z'enjawulo ng'akuwa ku magezi. Ekirala olina kubanga olina ekiyumba ekirabika bulungi. Bw'oba olina ekiyumba obumyu tebugenda kutaawaana ekyobulwadde kiba kikoze eki kiba kivuddewo. Era ekyokusatu nga tonaba okutandika bizinesi y'akamyu sooka onofuna akatale. Kyetwasooka kunyweza kyakatale. Bwe twafuna akatale akafulumya era tumanyi nti obunyu bw'abantu nga bwe babututte tusuubira balina kukola ki kuddamu ne babutuleetera ate naffe tulina we tukola ki we tubuteeka.
Program lineup on Urban